Jessica Trevisano. I am the Mayor's Senior Strategist focusing on West Side Market. I would be remiss to start this series without first thanking our sponsor, the PNC Foundation. They have sponsored this incredible series of events that we've been able to put on, the purpose of which is to really talk about all the ways that West Side Market affects and impacts our communities in our region. So we have done a whole host of talks so far that are all recorded by our friends here at TV20 and posted online. So if you like this one and you want more of it, you're in luck because you can watch lots of panels like this. We've talked about women's entrepreneurship. We've talked about food access. We did a really fun meeting a couple weeks ago where we talked about the master plan for West Side Market. This one is focused on our amazing chefs in Cleveland and our great food scene. And then we have two more coming up, one around climate resiliency, where we'll hear from a panel of speakers, including about our new composting pilot program that we have at West Side Market. And then our last one will be in September, and that one will be focused on minority entrepreneurship. So on your way out, there's little business cards that you can grab. It has the QR code to get to the website. If you go to the West Side Market's website, you'll see all of our future events. Before I introduce our panel and our moderator, I have an important point of business, which is we have a raffle. So if you sign up ahead of time online, our incentive is that you can get $50 to use at the market. And our raffle winner is Barb Cagley. Yeah? You're welcome. So the West Side Market sells these gift certificates that can be used as cash. If you go to Irene Deaver Dairy, you can buy gift certificates, makes great gifts, and is a really nice way to support our Tenants Association. With that, I'm going to talk a little bit about our run of show and then introduce our moderator. So we have about an hour budgeted for this talk with our panelists. The first 40 minutes, give or take, will be moderated, kind of a discussion amongst themselves, and then after that, we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions of these great panelists. So if you have a question, get ready to talk about it at the end because we want to give you an opportunity to have this conversation too. And with that, I'll introduce Josh Maxwell, who's our amazing moderator for the evening. I see lots of you have picked up the Edible Cleveland magazine. Josh and his partner are the new owners and publishers of Editor Cleveland, kind of bringing it back. And so we're really happy to have Josh here moderating the panel. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And thank you all for joining us this evening. I am honored to be moderating with these fine individuals that represent multiple corners of our food and drink industry. And tonight's conversation is all around inspiration. This is one that is special to me because as a visual artist and creator myself, I find inspiration in a lot of different things, and the West Side Market has been central to a majority of that. So I'm very excited to kick off our conversation this evening by introducing the rest of the panel this evening. So I'll kick it off with you.
Hi, I'm Joy Harler. I own Le Petit Triangle along with my husband Tom Harler, and we have been there almost 16 and a half years. Before that, we owned a little deli in Tremont called Take a Bite, which was there for 10 years, and we were heavy West Side Market users at that time. We're going through a lot of expansions at the restaurant right now, so we're here to stay for a while.
My name is Melissa Corey. I am owner and operator of Saucy Son, a butcher shop located in Slavic Village. We just, thank you. Just celebrated our 6-year anniversary back in March, but our business is about to turn 10 this December, as the first couple years we were nomadic, popping up pretty much anywhere someone would let me set up a table and sell some meat.
Hi guys, my name is Chef Eric Wells. I am a private chef here in the city. The name of my business is Skylar Ray's Culinary Services. So I do a little bit of everything. I specialize in doing intimate dinners for two. So what I do is I go to a couple's home and I do a 6-course dinner in your home. And I bring everything, linen, flowers, candles, food of course, china, silverware, everything. and I clean up afterwards. You can't hire me just to clean. I have to do some cooking that day, okay, just to let you know. So I've done over 3,500 dinner parties in the Cleveland, Akron, Canton, Columbus area over the last 19 years. Actually, Sunday we celebrate 19 years in business. So, yeah, thank you. So honored to be here, and looking forward to sharing my story with you guys.
Fantastic. Well, let's get into some conversation, shall we? I want to kind of bring it back to our roots of inspiration for the Westside Market and think about the first time that you were introduced to the market as a community asset. Whether you were young at heart or you were already a business owner, kind of recant that first time acquaintance with the market and how that has dovetailed into how you have built your businesses today.
Well, I'll start. My parents would bring me to the market when I was quite young, and all I wanted to do is eat candy and eat grapes, you know, while they kind of walked us around here. I kind of have not been to the market until I got older and into my business. I started frequenting the market more on a regular basis, maybe about 12 to 15 years ago. And just grew a great relationship with a lot of the vendors there. So I'm there 4 or 5 times a week. If you go to the market, you will see me run in, run out. You will hear the vendors say, "Hey, chef, hey chef, hey," you know, I'm just running in, grabbing what I have to go in and run out. But the market has been essential to the success of my business, and I thank God for it every day.
So very similar situation as well. What's that saying? If you knew then what you know now. So I remember visceral, like staring into cases and looking at whole pig heads and sheep heads and being like, "Holy crap, this is so cool!" And my sisters being like, "Ah," you know, and freaking out. And then fast forward, I'm a butcher, right? So maybe there's some premonition there that I should have paid attention to. But same thing, I come from a mixed ethnic household, and so we would come down to Cleveland a lot just because that was where my dad felt comfortable. There was a lot of Middle Eastern around, and we could find a lot of different things. So that was our every Saturday, and then lunch at Nate's afterwards. If you haven't been to Nate's Deli on 25th, go. And so it was very much a big part of my life, probably until like early adolescence, when we moved a little too far away. When I moved back to Cleveland in 2009, it was like the second place I went. I was like, I gotta go back. And I still feel like it has that inspirational. For me, I like to go in there and just kind of close my eyes and pretend like, think about what it used to be like 100 years ago, like whole animals walking through, you know, so it's a little bit different than I think other people think about, but it still has that same vibrancy for me today as it did when I was 5 or 6.
I do have to laugh in that comment. When I see someone walking through the market like with an animal and they're kind of like quickly pushing it through, I think that's what it was always like.
Yeah.
So I moved to Cleveland as a young adult, and I had never been to anything like the market. And I went there like on a Christmas Eve, and it was magical. You know, the carolers were there, and it was so full, and I'd never seen anything like this. So I continued to be a holiday shopper for a while, until I'd say the early 90s. I started working with Chef Parker Bosley at his restaurant on West 72nd, and I think it was St. Clair. And when you worked with Parker, and, you know, it was quite an experience, but he was very particular about where he got all of his ingredients from, and he used the market and certain stands. So I started using the market and going to those certain stands, and that became a big part of what I did when I started catering. When Tom and I got together and we started our catering business, the market was essential. We had a very small storage space, so you're not ordering cases of anything, and just like I'm sure with your catering, you're not ordering cases of peppers and cases of zucchini. You go there and you get 6 of this and 6 of this. So the market has always been a huge part of our business. Tom in particular probably has lifelong friends from so many years of shopping at the market that are a big part of our life. So the market has been very essential.
And I very much resonate with that. That was actually my first experience of the Westside Market. I was visiting colleges in Cleveland, and it was my very first time, and my dad and I needed to get some lunch, and so we ended up at the West Side Market, and it had this energy, this buzz, this vibrancy and I came from Dayton, Ohio, a suburb of Dayton, Ohio, so we had nothing like this at all. We have Kroger's. That's it. So when I visited the West Side Market, my mind was blown, and that was the first roots that really sunk in for me, seeing the community, the vibrancy, and to all of your notes, how it threads into the makeup of so many businesses, big and small. So what I want to ask next is, how do you leverage the West Side Market for your business, or inspired by the market for your businesses? Whether that is through ingredients that you purchase, or a relationship that was forged through networking, or just something that you organically get to experience when you're in the presence of the market.
Thank you. It's very interesting for me being a private chef, as Joy mentioned here. I don't go to the big stores and get cases of things. Everything has to be in small quantities, and I'm really big on shopping at the market. I always promote the market, and what drives me crazy, and I guess we'll get to this a little later on, when I go to couples' homes and I cook for them in their homes, we're conversing all evening, and most of the time clients are asking, wow, where'd you get this steak? Or where'd you get this lobster? Where'd you get this? And I'll tell them, yeah, West Side Market. And what drives me crazy is when I hear people say, oh, it's still open? And it drives me crazy. I want to jump out a window there. But yes, and I explain it and I promote the market. But the one thing the market has done for me is I'm really big on building relationships with my clients, with everyone. And I've built an amazing core of relationships with the people at the West Side Market. Some of the vendors there, I've been to their homes. I've cooked for their families. I've done dinner parties for them. I've used their products to do a dinner party for them in their home, So building relationships has been really big for me. And honestly, even, the profitability of my business has been amazing, because I'm paying 25% less than I would if I go to a grocery store. And for example, if I'm buying a steak, I'm not buying a steak that's, at a grocery store that's been wrapped in plastic for the last, 3 days or whatever. If I go to the West Side Market and buy a steak, I know exactly, when that animal was slaughtered. I know who's, butchering it and who's, taking care of it for me. So building relationships have been really big for me at the market. And I think I'm so thankful that we've built those relationships, and the business has been so profitable because of that.
Mine comes from a little bit different. So we direct source from farms directly. So the market has been more of like a bank of colleagues, right? There's some really cool, talented butchers in there, making, a lot of Eastern European products, things and such that I don't make. So that's been really cool to kind of, when people come in, and we're, I guess, the new age butcher shop, right? So we focus a lot on like Mediterranean style flavor profiles, part of my heritage, right? And so it's a cool space to send people, right? To say, well, I know so-and-so makes this there because I bought it there, right? I've enjoyed it from there. But it's also a resource for me in the sense of like learning, watching some of the older guys who probably aren't behind the stands anymore, a little bit younger, Mel, getting to go down in the basement and watching them break a whole cow or a half cow in the basement was probably one of the coolest experiences I've ever had, and realizing like their tenacity to work in a space that's kind of like a closet. The animal takes up all the space that they're working in, and so it's been kind of inspirational in that sense to watch them kind of persevere through all of this, regardless of what's been going on. But also just knowing that there's like a group of colleagues as butchers are becoming less and less. It's mostly meat cutters now. Knowing that there's people there that have seen the whole animal and can answer a question for me, or we can kind of trade secrets or whatnot.
Right. These days, with Le Petit Triangle, we don't use the market to the extent that we did when we were catering. We still have specific vendors that we go to for a little bit of produce here, or sausage here, spices here. Tom is probably there at least 3 times a week getting odds and ends. But again, it's a lot about the vendor relationships, and sometimes I think he just goes there to talk to his friends. So that's a lot of what it is.
Ooh, we're out of this. No, we're not. It's right here. I'll be right back.
I'm guilty of doing that myself more often than not. You'll find me sitting on the balcony ledge, just people watching for like days on end. So I want to kind of widen the lens a little bit and talk about how the West Side Market serves the city as a whole and the influence that it has had on our culinary, food, and drink industries.
I can start. Oh, okay. So Cleveland is a very ethnic city, as we all know, and I believe that the market is the center, what should be the center of our culinary world, does reflect that. It has, a lot of our German, our Polish, our Irish, Mediterranean. It has a lot of the influence that Cleveland has. I do, however, and not to be negative, I feel like our culinary scene around the market has grown a lot, and I don't feel the market has grown along with it. I think that there's a lot that we can do to see some, I'm not going to say trendy produce, I'm just going to say more produce. I feel like my produce stand looks the same in February as it does in July, and it really should look a lot different. I should, actually see what's growing. I feel like there's some minority kind of stands. I don't know. I want to see, empanadas. I want to see more of what Cleveland is at the market, and I think that's possible.
I would absolutely agree with that. I would also say, thinking about how it started and what it was when it started, right? The world has changed. Nobody's pulling up their horse and buggy with whatever wagon full of meat or vegetables that they grew and looking for a place to unload it. And so watching kind of the city around it kind of blow up and it kind of struggle to keep up, I think keeps a lot of people going to it more regularly because they're not going to find guanciale in there. They're not going to find, fava beans at certain times. There's things that, as culinary trends and we learn more of, we need to also be able to keep up with that. So I think there, again, is a massive amount of room for improvement, and all of it is here in the city. We don't have to go far to add those things to it, right? They're all here. It's just getting them to point A and B, right?
Yeah, I agree with what the young lady said here also. As some of you may follow me on social media and things like that, I travel a ton. My wife and I, we travel a ton. We go all over the world, and the first thing we do when we get to different countries all over the world or different cities over the world is go to their market. Go to their market. I mean, last year we were in Florence and went to their market, and we always compare. We compare wow, why can't we have this here in Cleveland? I think it's coming. I think Jessica and the staff, I think they're doing an amazing job, and I think those things are going to occur. So I'm hopeful. I'm looking forward to seeing the changes here, but I agree, it needs to be a little more ethnically kind of diverse, and again, finding products that we really wouldn't find in any other places, in the city that we can definitely find at the market. So I'm looking forward to the changes. I really am.
So that's a perfect segue to talk about what is currently going on at the market and thinking about what is to come. It is transitioning to nonprofit management, and a slew of activity is going to occur once that benchmark is met. What inspires you for the future of the market, and how do you see that affecting you as a business and as a person, but also the community as a whole?
For me, it's looking at every single vendor in there as another small business, right? So watching that grow and that flourish, it's kind of like that small business owner in me going woo! For them, because they've also fought through, probably more than what we've experienced as customers there, right? So I'm excited for them because I think they haven't been able to reach their full potential in many years just based off of things. So one, the people that are already existing, watch out. It's going to be really cool to see what they're capable of doing when they have the proper support and the proper working area. Two, what that will attract, right? So it has the opportunity to attract these smaller incubator style businesses. I think as the youngest on the panel of starting my business here, there's not this like step up, right? Cleveland misses that mark of you start your business, your grassroots, but you're not ready for your like big space yet, like a full brick and mortar, but where do you go? How do you continue to grow? Farmers markets are great, but inclement weather, Clevelanders, we're tough, but we're not that tough. It drop a little bit of snow, no one's shopping outside. You know what I mean? So like we have to find ways to give those people those spaces where they can take that next step, continue to grow their businesses, and have that opportunity to open that next brick and mortar. So I think it has the potential to do a lot of that with the current vendors, but also the vendors it will attract.
One thing that I'm excited about, and I've talked to Jessica a couple of times about this, one thing that I do, I also teach cooking classes. And if anyone's familiar with Loretta Paganini, I'm a graduate of her professional program. So I taught out there for 8 years after I graduated, and I teach now at a different facility, but doing cooking demos there. I'm really looking forward to building a kitchen, or a kitchen being built there. I'm not building it, building a kitchen there, and just working there and just using the produce, using the meats and everything at the market and selling them, quote unquote, selling them to the people as we do little cooking demos. Hey, this, pork that I have right here, I got from that vendor right there, so you can actually go purchase it from them. So that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to.
Well, two things that Tom and I tried to do at the market was the years that we had Take-A-Bite, so this would have been early 2000s, we tried to have a stand where we would sell what we did at Take-A-Bite at the market. And nobody wanted prepared food. That was a big no-no. And we had it staffed, we were so ready, we were so excited. That didn't happen. So I'm hoping that in the coming future, someone's going to have great prepared food and be able to do everything that we wanted to do. And I think now with social media, people will see that, it'll be popular, people will come to the market. And another crazy thing we did is we decided that no one had local produce. So I think it was 2012, we decided to open a local produce stand at the market. And that didn't go so well. People at the time were going to the market for value, and we could not sell local produce cheaply. I think that the demographics of the neighborhood have changed a lot since then. People with their social media and their Instagram will know what's there, and they'll be there in a minute to get that. So I really look forward to having a wide range of local produce, and I'm really excited about that.
I'm going to take a half step back because we've all noted our connections and experiences through the market, and I want to focus on the experiential aspect because for me that's one of the most prominent components of the market. It's you don't just passively observe, you can, but the best part of the experience is being in the midst of it. Talking to people, seeing people prepare, seeing people cook, seeing people plate. And so I want to kind of take that vein of inspiration back to each of your businesses and talk about how do you use that element of experience to really elevate the shopper's experience or the diner's experience, because you all do it in a very unique form and fashion.
How do I use I'm not sure I get the question.
Yeah, so for Le Petit, you have the when you walk up to order your plate, your dish, you get to see it prepared. You can literally linger and smell everything as it's cooking, and that for me, like, I would much rather linger up at the counter than go to my table because I want to see what the process is.
Okay. So when I go to the market, you talk about the process. Someone else take this question.
Okay, so as Eric was talking about the way the steaks are laid out in the case, things of that nature, right? You get to just see the whole cut. And that is something that is absolutely how we operate our butcher shop, right? So nothing is in packages. It's not, you can see how beautiful it is. You can see how fresh it is. And then taking on that one step further, I think it's important that you have to offer up that cooking knowledge, right? And so I do remember several times, again, mixed ethnic household. So my mom was about as white as they come, and my dad was Middle Eastern. And so my dad was convinced that she was gonna cook this dish, and she had no idea how to cook it. And she was standing at the market talking to somebody, and they were speaking half Arabic and half English. And I just remember the confusion on my mom's face, like, yeah, I got this, right? But there's still that like want to help, right? And so when you come to a stand or you come to someone's shop, you know, if it's a cut they're comfortable with, or they've seen it, but if they've never cooked it themselves, they need to feel that confidence walking away, right? And I think that was something that I always felt when we would deal with vendors there. And I think that's very important to how we welcome people in our store. If you're not familiar with something, I want you to walk out feeling confident about it. And we have always had a all is welcome policy in our space, much like the market. We have one motto, and it's just don't be a jerk. Everything else goes. And it's actually a different word, but we're on TV, so I'm gonna save that.
Well, for me, it's a little different, not having a brick and mortar, and I'm going to put someone on the spot real quick. Don from D.W. Whitaker's is back there, guys. Give it up for Don from D.W. Whitaker's, guys. So he's one of my good friends at the West Side Market. I'm there all the time getting things from them. And actually, quick story, I was there the other day, and a couple was next to me, and we just struck up a conversation about pork. And they said, "What's your name?" And I told them my name. They said, "Hey, I have a gift certificate. You're coming to my house soon." And I'm like, "Wow, okay." But I kind of showed them how to kind of prepare something. Even the vendor behind Pat was kind of telling them, "Hey, he's a chef. He'll come. He'll do this." And they were like, "Oh, wow, you're the chef that's coming to my house." So it's interesting, just the relationships and building and things like that happen in the experience, because you know, people know me as the chef that's always shopping at the West Side Market. So people stop me all the time, ask me, "How do you prepare this?" I'm like, "I have no idea. I'm just running in here, getting some lettuce, and I'm leaving." But I don't say that. But I'm really nice to people. But yeah, people do ask me all the time, "How do you do this? How do you work with, you know, this product? And how do you prepare this product?" And you know, as Chef Melissa said, I try to help them out as much as I can. You know.
Right, when I'm at the market, and I through our recent renovation, I've been doing all the shopping there the last few weeks, so it's kind of reminded me of what it's like to be at the market, you know, every other day. And it is funny, like I'll go into like Mediterranean foods, and if someone mentions, you know, Le Petit Triangle, everyone wants to talk to you, and it's fun. It's fun to talk about food with people. And the other day I had a man, like he followed me around to every single stand I went to, and I wanted to talk about recipes, and I was like, well, okay, this is good, because at Le Petit, we do emphasize being friendly, treating all customers, you know, the same, no matter who they are, be nice to everybody. And I think when you're at the market, people are, it's not like when you're like at Kroger's or, you know, Giant Eagle, people are in a hurry, they want to get out. But when you're at the market, it's an experience. You're there to socialize, you're there to talk and to learn.
So we have time for one more question, so I want to leave us on an inspirational note. For people that are trying to find their own ways to connect with the market or find their own sense of inspiration, what would you suggest for them?
That's a great question. What I would kind of suggest here is, if you want to be inspired by the market, you have to go to the market. As I mentioned, a lot of my clients tell me, "Hey, I've never been to the market," or last time I went was 30 years ago. The market is alive and well. Please visit the market and get to know some of the vendors. Talk to them. Tell them your name. Tell them what you love to cook. They'll be helpful with you. You can't get that at Kroger or Giant Eagle. You can't really talk to anyone, a vendor or someone that works there and ask them, how to properly prepare an item. So go shop at the market. Become friends with these people. They're nice people. They really are.
So I was just like having this like moment where you're talking and thinking about like you doing cooking demos, and I was like, ooh, a scavenger hunt in the market where like everyone has to go get ingredients and they meet back at the kitchen with Chef Wells and you guys cook it up together, like, right? So it is that. It is going to the stands and having those conversations. I am guilty. There are days where I'm like, head down, I gotta get in, I gotta get out. I will never go there on a Saturday. My anxiety will not let me in that door on a Saturday. Thanks, pandemic. But it is something that I think can be exactly what you need it to be when you need it. You just have to go there. And like sitting up on the top shelf, like up on the top and just watching, like you can't help but feel alive watching all of that happening. So go get a sandwich and do it.
Right, with the scavenger hunt, that's what all the kids do. They all get like a list of items and they have to find them and it takes them through the market. But go to the market with a complicated recipe and have to go find this spice and this noodle and this piece of chicken and stuff, and that'll take you to all the right places and you'll definitely see it. And go with other people, it's more fun.
I'll add one for myself as well. Back on the balcony, that's my stoop. I love looking at the details in the market. The architecture, the stands, the stalls, the displays that the vendors put time and effort into creating for their shoppers. That's what really inspires me, is seeing all the love and creativity that is pumped into the market consistently. And that's why it keeps me coming back time and time again.
We have some time for audience questions. If anybody has a question, put your hand up. Nobody wants to come up with a question? Good.
You have many years of experience there. You've had your first customers. I'll pick a number, 10 years ago. Think about who they were. Customers you have now, how they're different, and the customers you hope to have in the future. You buy from the vendors. You support the vendors. And you tell the vendors what I need at the Petite, because your menu changes. You know your clientele at the Petite. They change. Who's the next iteration of the market? Who's going to go there? You know, you have the big apartment complex next door to it. They weren't there, your first clients. They may be starting to come now, but what's in the market now, what they want.
I do. So I feel this very much because I do have my first customer from 10 years ago, and you know, there has been a pandemic and all these other things that have like changed, and if you're not able to pivot, you're dead in the water. And I do think about that, like how is it the customer from 10 years ago is still coming, and what attracted that new customer? And I think the thing about it is that everything has to pivot and everything has to stay fresh in some capacity. And I'm noticing that even in my own business. Like, I can't just make the same 4 sausage flavors and expect that the guy from 10 years ago and the girl from tomorrow are gonna be happy with just those same 4. So it's a constant, I think, change on how you are viewing how you operate your business, but also like what your offerings are and keeping up with things that are happening both in Cleveland and on a national level. I mean, there's too many times that things happen where people come in and are starting to ask for products because they read an article or they saw something, or you know, they watched it on TV. And if you're not able to keep up with that, then that's going to really damper like your obtaining the new customers.
Right, the same at Le Petit, you know, we keep the same staples on our menu for those customers that have been coming for 16 years, and people come in and they expect to see beef bourguignon, cassoulet, but yet there's a lot of new people that come in and they want burrata and watermelon and they want different things. So we have to keep it fresh, and the market needs to do the same thing. There's got to be 3 blackberries for $5 for the people that have been coming in forever, but yet there's got to be Belgian Mendive and Radicchio over at this stand for these new people that are coming in. So we all have to keep a mix and be aware of keeping our clientele and attracting new ones, and hoping that when you're talking about who's the next generation of shoppers, I hope that, you know, you were saying you were a little kid being drug around the market. Well, my kids were at the market every single day, and I think that, you know, they grew up that way. They'll use the market, and I think most of our kids and people we took to the market when they were young, they will use the market as well.
Well, I'm going to answer your question just a little differently. Not having a brick and mortar, what's important for me is service. You know, people all the time, over 3,000, 3,500 couples that I've cooked for, they say the same thing. Chef, I don't even remember the entire meal, what I had, the entire 6-course meal, but I remember your service. I remember the warmth you gave me as you were in my home. And but from a food perspective, knowing that I purchased this steak, 8 hours earlier, and it was butchered, less than a day or two earlier, is important. And those are some of the things that I tell my clients, that the freshness of this steak or the freshness of this meat that you're eating comes from the West Side Market. And again, for me, it's all about relationships, and having that relationship with my vendors and my people at the West Side Market is very important, that I can kind of move over and give that same service to my clients.
Any other questions? Great. One and then two.
I can remember a number of different ethnic stores in the suburbs and in the old neighborhoods. Do you think there's room for example, Old Brooklyn Cheese to have a place at the market, but to still retain their store in Old Brooklyn? I mean, that type of a connection, I think, is something that could be fostered, so it doesn't replace it, but that it sort of supports it.
Well, I'm going to answer that question real quick and give it to Melissa, because I think there needs to be a saucisson in the West Side Market.
You're not the first one to say that. I think it is a tricky kind of battle on, really, if you throw a rock, Tremont, connects into Slavic Village, and I can be here in like 7.5 minutes in rush hour traffic. It was 8.5 today because there was somebody with a flat tire on the side of the road. It's boggled my mind about Cleveland because I've lived in a lot of other cities. Clevelanders hate to drive. Y'all won't go from east to west without like somebody like begging you. I don't understand it. Like the vast majority. So I have thought about that, and I do think it's a different clientele. The ones that are coming to your individual shop are coming for an experience at that individual shop, where the West Side Market, while you're there selling cheese, it's a whole experience all by itself. You're not just there for that one vendor. So for another business, you might actually get more kind of accidental traffic, if you will, right? You're stopping in just to get some bread and some herbs, and now you see this charcuterie display, and you're like, well, I didn't know I need that, but I do now,
I think it's absolutely possible. Like something like I said, Tom and I wanted to do that years ago with Take a Bite, and we were actually very close to the West Side Market, but Tremont had such little traffic at that time during the daytime, it would have made sense to be at the market. It's really if the vendor can handle the cost of the rent and the utilities and the labor to make that West Side Market experience work for them. I don't know if with the new plans of the market, I'm sorry I wasn't at that one meeting where they talked about it, if people are going to be held to year-long rents, or they're going to get to do a pop-up for a month and see how it works for them. I think how that's handled will really determine what kind of new vendors we can have, while still keeping the existing vendors who have had to stay and go through a lot to be there to see all this happen.
I guess I have the next question. I'm Dan Conway. My brother Pat and I are the owners of Great Lakes Brewing Company, and so we appreciate your presence here tonight, and thank you. But I guess my question is about the sense of local at the West Side Market, and it's often thought that the market is full of local suppliers, and I think the truth is it's not so much the case. And so I'm intrigued to hear what your experience has been with that and what your hope is for that. But just before you answer, it's probably true to say that we would not have started Great Lakes Brewing Company in this neighborhood if it were not for the West Side Market. So we are forever in debt to the market for its history and its presence, because we certainly looked at it for its anchor, for which we could also be an anchor. So thank you.
As far as local, there is some local, but there's not enough. I mentioned how we tried to have a local produce stand, and it was called Rooted in Cleveland years ago, and like I said, at that time, people did not want to spend the money that it cost for local. But there's some local cheese. There's some guys out there selling some local produce in their mix of produce. I mean, there was Basketeria, which was fabulous, that had so much local. But I really hope to see more. One of the questions we were given to think about, like, what trends are going on in Cleveland right now, and I don't know if it's going on in Cleveland, but it should be, is the sustainability, and we really need to have that at the market. First and foremost, if this is our culinary center.
Local is like a big soapbox for me, so I'm gonna try not to get on it. However, I think local means something different to everyone, because yes, it is local by the sense that there are local business owners in there, right? Doesn't mean that the products are from specifically local farm. They can pinpoint where. So I guess there's variant levels of local. I prefer kind of the motto of just be honest about it, right? And so, we have factory farms in Ohio. We have big conglomerate farms that raise all kinds of vegetables that are filled with pesticides and things of that nature. They're everywhere. So it could still be local and not necessarily the best product for you if you choose to, right? So I think there needs to be like a better definition around local. Fun fact is when I can no longer butcher, I plan to lobby for our food labels, because I think it's whack that we don't put things on our labels that should be there. It's our body, we should have that choice. Don't get me wrong, I'm probably gonna order Domino's Pizza tonight, but I'm fully aware of what Domino's Pizza is, right? I'm making that decision for myself versus no nitrates added, but then there's like a ton of celery or there's a ton of seaweed and maybe my body can't process nitrates. So I think there's like a lot to be said around the local. I think we have to keep it a good mix just so that it is affordable for everyone to shop there. And having those 3 pints for $5 or whatever it is also needs to be there so that we don't price people out.
So on my website, I clearly state that 95% of the items that I purchase are considered quote unquote local. And when I mean local, as Chef Melissa was saying, I mean local in the sense of local businesses, businesses that are here or within a 50-mile radius of Cleveland. So that's my definition of local. So yeah, it's big for me to use companies or people that are local. I see Ramades here from Adun. Anybody familiar with Adun Spices on Shaker Square, or near Shaker, I'm sorry. Go, amazing spices. But yeah, it's, I use her products, use local products. It's very important for me, and it looks really good on my website that 95% of my clients, or 95% of my businesses use local.
Can I add on to that? Yeah. I just want to say, so I do a lot of hosting for dinner parties, and it's a point of pride to be able to pick out what's on the plate and tell who I'm serving it to exactly where it came from, the butcher who butchered it and who helped me prepare it, and where I got my herbs and my bread and all of my ingredients. That becomes the entire dinner conversation in itself. So I think the aspect of local is extremely important to our immediate hyper-local communities, but also regionally, because it shapes how we are able to talk about what we eat and drink, and it inspires us to do so.
I think maybe last question, but taking it back to inspiration, I was at the market last weekend. I bought a pork tenderloin, and I was thinking about what am I going to serve with this pork tenderloin. I had in mind a sauce that I was going to make, but I wasn't sure what it was going to be, sweet or savory. Walking around the market, I was inspired when I got to Home Pantry, a new vendor who has all these homemade jams. And so I asked if I could sample some of the jams. She was completely welcoming to take as many as you'd like. And I ended up buying one of blackberry lavender jam, and I made a sauce out of it. It's delicious.
I eat that with this food by itself. Yes.
It's delicious. Highly recommend it. But existing vendors been there for years, got the pork, new vendor, jam. If you can think of a time that you walked through the market and were inspired to, make a certain meal, if you could share that.
So I almost every time I go there for a specific ingredient, maybe it's Ohio City pasta. It's typically what I'm going there for, a cheese shop, things of that nature. My meal will change because of what I see. I have it in my head, I'm doing this, you know, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is all I need. And then I make the mistake of cutting through the back and seeing someone else, you know. That's why I said sometimes I'm just like head down, because it's also so I don't buy more than I'm supposed to buy. But I honestly, I almost every single time I will change what or add an ingredient that I wasn't expecting just based off of something that somebody has that I wasn't expecting to see that day.
So this kind of goes back a little bit. I have this dish. First of all, the weird thing about me being a chef is I'm allergic to shellfish, which is the craziest thing in the world. So, are you also?
I am.
It's crazy. So, but I cook it a lot. And actually, just yesterday, I made a dish for my wife. I make these mussels, these Thai mussels, Thai coconut mussels, where I use coconut broth and Thai curry paste and things like that. So I was inspired initially to make that recipe by Naren Spices in the West Side Market. I just was going to Naren just to see what she had, and she kind of gave me some things, gave me some ideas. This was years ago, and now that recipe is actually, I have a cookbook. That recipe is actually in my cookbook now. But yeah, that recipe and that place, Naren's Spices in West Side Market, really, really does inspire me.
Right, I have to say, I think Kate's Fish has sort of moved to a different place, but often, like when it was on the other side, their display was so beautiful. I mean, it was, close to like a Pike's Market someday, and you go there for one thing and you find you're getting something else. And when Basketeria was there, I couldn't stop buying vegetables from there. That would always just come up with way too much, and I would be very inspired.
I think that's all the time that we have. Thank you to our host, Great Lakes, for having us. Thank you to our wonderful panelists and moderator. And thank you all for being here. We have the space for a little bit longer, so feel free to grab a drink, more food, and hope to see you at the next one. Thanks.